every school year, I've developed a tradition. This is going to be my first time doing it at Campbell, but I give a series of sermons based on Proverbs 31. So Proverbs 31 is an interesting book, the interesting part of the Bible. The king is writing to the queen mother is writing to her son, the king. And you're going to figure out pretty quickly what's going on with the king. And in fact, I think it's a great message that many college students need to hear. So this is the sayings of King Lemuel, an inspired utterance his mother taught him. Listen, my son. Listen, son of my womb. Listen to my son, the answer to my prayers. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, not for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed. So if you're picking up on it, what's the king doing? He's partying too much and he's sleeping around. That's basically the gist of it, right? And it's interesting, and I'm going to flesh it out. So the queen mother starts by exonerating her son. Stop wasting your life on people who are not good for you. These women that are not going to make good wives, and these friends that are not good friends. But she appeals to something that's really interesting. And the second part gets at the ideal woman. So one of the stories I tell is the reason why I got the inspiration to talk about this with college students was once I was talking with a president of a fraternity, and he was a junior at the time, and he was a very good guy, very popular fraternity. And I read him this poem of the ideal woman, and he said, you know what? A woman like that wouldn't want me to be her husband. I was like, you're right? Where you're living right now, a woman like that wouldn't want you to be their husband, right? So we talked about it. It's like, well, this is a challenge, right? Do you want this kind of woman to be your wife? And the interesting thing, so let me continue on. It goes, let beer be for those who are perishing, wine for those who are in anguish. Let them drink and forget their poverty and remember their misery no more. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. Meditating on this passage has really helped me to understand is that many times when we behave in ways that are shameful, that bring shame upon us and our family, it's because we don't recognize what we have, our worth. But here's the thing though, I know you guys have been hearing that. Many of us in Catholic circles have been saying this for years. You're precious in God's eyes, and everybody is loved by the Father, and there's truth in that, by all means. But there is something to be said that if we do not live nobly, if we do not cultivate virtues, if we're not people that have something to offer other people, then as much as those empty platitudes might have truth to them, they don't strike us to the core because we haven't discovered our worth by truly being somebody who is honorable, somebody who's virtuous, somebody who does great things. And that's the challenge, with this poem, and we'll flesh it out next week, is it's very challenging for a lot of people because they're like, man, I can't live up to these expectations. But think of it this way, like Michael Jordan. How many kids, now you guys Michael Jordan's older now, so maybe now it's like LeBron James or whatever, but whatever sport, Messi, whatever sport you pick, how many people grow up watching them play? And when they see their greatness, instead of saying, oh, I can never be that, they say, I'm going to strive my hardest to be that. I'm going to try to be like that. That's what ideals do. They inspire us in noble ways. But think about this, being a person that somebody to contend with. One of the dynamics I've seen with a few people that I've been working with, they have family members or they have other people in their lives that it's really harsh to say this, but it's the truth. They have nothing to offer. That is, they can't hold down a conversation. They have no skills, no expertise. And the challenge is, there comes a certain point where your family will love you and people around you will care for you. But if you are not able to reciprocate, if you're not able to hold a conversation, to have things to offer the world, life gets more and more lonely. And that's part of college experience. That's part of a growing in virtue, is being people that have incredible things to offer because you've cultivated those incredible things by studying the scriptures, by building virtue, by telling interesting stories, listening well, all these different aspects. And that's really what the Queen Mother is trying to instill in her son. Seek after such a person and strive to be such a person. That's kind of the flip side. The king, he knows his dignity. So the question is, how are we spending our time? And that's really the examination of conscience. Are we striving to live noble? And if we are, what a beautiful thing it is to live nobly, to live beautiful lives like the saints of old, like the great people of old, to be great even in our small ways, in the occupations we find ourselves. So we'll talk about this again next week. But today, to recognize, are you living like a king or are you living like a pauper? Are you living like a queen or are you living like somebody who's not important in society? And that's, the more we learn to recognize that, the more we learn to live that way, that is the path to happiness. Amen?
Amen.